Well, friends, welcome to this session on one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, India, Mallikarjun Mansur. There must be many in the audience who would have heard the great master. I was lucky enough to have hosted him many times in Bhopal and elsewhere. In fact, way back in 1977, we had a 3-day festival around him, with him giving a morning concert, an evening concert, their papers read on him, and a question-answer session. And if time would permit later, I'll tell you some of the answers that the master gave. Almost a saint, since musicians can't be fully saintly, artists cannot be, thank God. And our friend Irfan Zuberi has been engaged with disseminating, analyzing, talking about Hindustani classical music. And he has been running a whole series earlier. He was heading the National Cultural Audiovisual Archives at Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts. And presently, he is pursuing a doctorate at the University of Tübingen. And more importantly for me, he has been working on a biography of Mallikarjun Mansur under a Raza Foundation fellowship. So we are hoping that before I hand over, he was kind enough to ask me to read a poem about Mallikarjun Mansur that I wrote as a kind of a triptych when he fell ill, not terminally, but a little before that. And the poem, well, as you know, Mallikarjun Mansur got wide recognition rather late in his life. He was already 60 plus when he started getting invited to concerts. In fact, in one of these sessions in Bhopal, when he was asked that if somebody sitting in the front and is able to do wah-wah at the right moment, does that encourage you or impress you? He said, no. There was time when my name was announced and the hall would be vacant. I have sung to empty halls. My job is to sing. His job is to listen. If he listens, it's fine. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter to me. And he said it with the generosity and humility of a master, not with any bitterness or anything. In the same place, once he was asked, he took a tan, and somebody who was a knowledgeable person in Pune, in Pune everybody is knowledgeable, so one stood up and he said, कि Bhurji Khan साहब तो ऐसी तान नहीं लेते थे. He said, बसा. बुर्जी खां साहब तान कैसी लेते थे मैं बताता हूँ. उन्होंने बुर्जी खां साहब की तान. And then he said, I am a disciple of Bhurji Khan Sahab. I am not his stenographer. He had, he was a man of, anyway, I'll read the poem and you haven't come here to listen to me. This only refers to the fact that the recognition to him came very late. अपनी रफ्तार से चलते हुए बहुत बाद में आते हैं मल्लिकार्जुन मंसूर और समय से आगे निकल जाते हैं। उलझनों भरे घावों खरोंचों से लथपथ टुच्चे होते जाते समय से आगे। उनके पीछे आता है गिड़गिड़ाता हुआ समय, दरिद्र और अपंग, भीख मांगता हाथ फैलाए समय हाँफता हुआ। मल्लिकार्जुन मंसूर अपने भरे और फिर भी सीधे बुढ़ापे में हल्का सा झुक कर रखते हैं काल के कंधे पर अपना हाथ, ठिठक कर सुलगाते हैं अपनी बीड़ी, चल पड़ते हैं फिर किसी अप्रत्याशित पड़ाव की ओर। अपने लिए कुछ नहीं बटोरते उनके संत हाथ, सिर्फ लुटाते चलते हैं सब कुछ, गुनगुनाते चलते हैं पंखुड़ी पंखुड़ी सारा संसार। ईश्वर आ रहा होता घूमने इसी रास्ते तो पहचान न पाता कि वो स्वयं है या कि Mallikarjun Mansur.
Wow.
Now to Irfan.
Thank you so much, Ashok ji. Thank you for accepting to read this poem. I thought it would be just sort of the best contextual sort of introduction to the master. First of all, I'd like to little apologize for my voice. I'm struggling with fever and cough. So thankfully, it's Mallikarjun Mansur's recordings that we would be hearing and not me. So I think most people who are here have either heard him live or have heard recordings of his. So I'm going to just very briefly introduce him. He was born in Dharwad in Karnataka, and he lived there till his demise. Despite all the various kinds of opportunities that came by his way, even though late in his life, as Ashok ji mentioned, he never relocated from Dharwad, and he's buried in the home which he built in 1968. So it was basically because of his spiritual guru Shri Mrityunjay Swami at the Muruga Mutt in Dharwad, whose disciple he was, that he sort of stayed on in Dharwad, and apparently Mrityunjay Swami said to him that if you leave Dharwad, your career will take a downswing. So Dharwad is like critical to your success. So he took his guru's advice very seriously, and he stayed on there till the end of his life. And the house that he made in Dharwad in 1968, he named after his guru. The house is called Shri Mrityunjay. And it's after his demise, a couple of years after his demise, it was turned into a museum containing some of his belongings and archival photographs. It's good that we are talking today on the 20th of December, because it's just 11 days away from his 113th birth anniversary. He was born on the 31st of December. And as Ashok ji mentioned, Bhurji Khan, he first learned from Pandit Neelakanthabua Alurmath of the Gwalior Gharānā, who was a direct disciple of Pandit Balkrishna Bua Ichalkaranjikar of the Gwalior tradition. And so his foundational and fundamental talim was in the Gwalior parampara. And in fact, the amount of learning that he took in the Gwalior tradition in many ways goes far beyond what he learnt in the Atrauli parampara, because it was a set period of continuous time that he spent with his teacher, Neelakanthabua, in Miraj in Maharashtra, living with him for about continuously for 6 years. So this was his formative years, and Neelakanthabua sort of trained him just like his own son, because Neelakanthabua did not have a child of his own, and he was himself a Jangam in the Lingayat tradition as well. So Mansur himself being a Lingayat, Mansur was really adopted by Neelakanthabua and his wife as like their own son, and he was taught with a lot of affection, and it's that talim that he received in the Gwalior tradition that remained closest to him all the way till the end. I'll come to that when I talk a little bit more about his recordings. But so he had gotten married very, very early on in life. He was 10 years old when he got married, because this was the time of child marriages, and his wife was all of 5 when they got married. Although they did not live together for many years after that marriage, they only started living together when he came back from his talim from Neelakanthabua in about 1928, when he was about 18 or so. They were economically, there was a lot of struggle economically with the family. They came from a very small village. They did not have land belongings. They did not have really anything. And music was Mansurji's, it was both his escape as well as his mad passion, both, you know. I mean, he did not, again, like Ashokji mentioned, it was only from the age of 60 onwards that he started getting invited at major conferences and started getting recognition in terms of awards, etc. But up until then, life was a struggle and it was difficult. And he had a big family. He had 7 daughters and 1 son. So when people used to ask him, he said, my 7 daughters are like the Saptaswaras. So, so everything was music for him. And but in his own writing, it comes across that he was very marginally involved with life with the family. You know, he was always touring. He was always trying to find opportunities to perform and make a living. And it seems when I now talk to a lot of his daughters and his son, they gave me the narrative that he was more or less an absent father. You know, when he was around, he was very involved with their lives and their children's lives. He was very close to his grandchildren. But he was mostly not around, and it was the responsibility of his wife, Gangamma Mansur, to sort of manage the household, also take huge amounts of loans from everyone across Dharwad to sort of make ends meet. There wasn't a shop in Dharwad where they did not have a loan, so it's only when he would come back from his travels that he would sort of go and pay off all the loans slowly. And so life was difficult. It was very difficult. They did not have a place of their own. But he persevered with music. It was for him the only rationale for life, and he just he never had that doubt that it was music that he was meant to do. And it was completely a chance meeting with the middle son of Ustad Alladiya Khan Sahab of the Jaipur Atrauli Gharānā, that he sort of, he had already released the first of his 78 RPM recordings, and he had a very good friend in Bombay who was a jeweler by profession, but sort of wanted Mansur to hit the next level and, you know, get into the big league with the performers of his generation. So his friend Vishnu Pant Phagnis was really the one who conspired on his behalf to meet Ustad Manjhi Khan, the middle son of Ustad Alladiya Khan. When Manjhi Khan Sahab came into the shop looking for some jewelry to buy for his wife, he played Mansur's record, and Manjhi Khan obviously gave a reaction and said that, who's this boy? He's singing well. He said, idhar hi hai, he's here, he's sitting right here. So, and he promptly pushed Mansur ahead, and Mansur sort of in his broken Marathi sort of said that, kya aap mujhe sikhayenge? And Manjhi Khan took his time. Manjhi Khan listened to the record and he said, ye ladka mera gāyakī le sakta hai. But he did not give a definitive answer as to when his talim will begin and things like that. But within a week or 10 days or so, Vishnu Pant Phagnis again sort of conspired on his behalf and landed up at the home of Ustad Manjhi Khan, and they underwent the Ganda Bandhan. He became a formal disciple of Ustad Manjhi Khan. But Mansur was very unfortunate because Manjhi Khan died within 1.5 years. Manjhi Khan was very, very young when he died. And in fact, when Mansur wrote his autobiography, Rasa Yatra, he has dedicated it to Manjhi Khan. He has said that dedicated to Swarabhaskar Manjhi Khan, who died in the afternoon of his life. And a lot of people who are fans of this gāyakī say till today that had Manjhi Khan lived on, the landscape of Jaipur Atrauli gāyakī would be really very different, because he had sort of taken it more, made it more intricate and taken it forward from what his father taught him, and he had other eclectic influences. So Mansur again was in a doldrum, roaming around Bombay, but not getting opportunities to sing and not getting the talim that he wanted. So he went to Ustad Allah Diya Khan, who was still alive, and Ustad Allah Diya Khan said that I am too old to teach you, but you can go to my youngest son, Ustad Bhurji Khan, who Ashok ji mentioned. And Bhurji Khan was a very different person. You know, he was completely unlike his elder brother Manjhi Khan. And Bhurji Khan was not a great stage performer by most accounts. He was a great teacher. And by virtue of being a great teacher, he had many disciples. And he had so many demands on his time that he hardly had time for someone like Mansur. And this was the time when in Bombay, you know, I mean, the great Baijis like Kesar Bai, Mogu Bai, Menka Bai, so many others were giving a lot of money to these ustads to learn from them. And Mansur had nothing to offer. You know, Mansur was just, I mean, there is a description that when he was learning from Manjhi Khan, the talim would go on for about 8 hours every day. And what he would take a break and eat during the day was murmura and water, and that's it. So that's how he learned, and this was, you know, I mean, this was an everyday struggle with him. So how does he convince someone like Bhurji Khan to teach him when he has zero money to offer? But Allah Diya Khan put in a good recommendation to his youngest son and said that this is the only boy who's been able to pick up my son's gāyakī, so you have to take him on. So Bhurji Khan made the time, albeit not in Bombay, but when Bhurji Khan moved to Kolhapur, as you might know, it was in Kolhapur that Allah Diya Khan received the greatest amount of patronage under Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. And this gharāna sort of came into being in Kolhapur, so to say. And for many years, it was called the Kolhapur Gharāna. And alternatively, it was also called the Allah Diya Khan Gharāna. It's only after Allah Diya Khan Sahib's death that the Gharāna came to be called the Jaipur Atrauli Gharāna. Which is a kind of a tribute to the fact that it was in Jaipur Darbar that Allah Diya Khan heard all the great musicians who had a great impact on him. So it was his way of paying tribute to the Jaipur Darbar that he prefixed his family, which belonged to Atrauli in Uttar Pradesh. He prefixed the name of the Gharāna with Jaipur, and that's how it sort of came into being, and that's how it came to be known as Jaipur Atrauli. But I'm going to call it Atrauli, and I'll tell you why as I move along. I'm going to call Atrauli because it's basically from Atrauli that all these families, whether of the Agra Gharana, whether of the Atrauli Gharana, and Atrauli itself had 3 separate Gharanas. But it's when all these practitioners came to Maharashtra and came to Bombay that they all got amalgamated into what was being built up as Agra. So everyone became like an offshoot of Agra. You know, Agra repertoire is what Allah Diya Khan Sahib sang. And everyone was sort of slotted as Agra Gharana. And this was a time when all these Gharanas were really coming into being. These narratives are not as old as we are told that they are. These Gharanas came into being only in the earlier part of the 20th century, really. And the roots go back to a little bit after the time of the mutiny of 1857, when the musicians started to move out from Delhi and surrounding areas and started finding new areas of patronage, that these Gharanas came into being. So Mansur then learnt very intermittently from Ustad Bhurji Khan for a period of 10 years, so to say. But if one is to look at effectively how long that he learnt, it was not more than 2 to 3 years, because he was also making a living. He was also performing So he would make time and go to Bombay, or he would make time and go to Kolhapur to learn, but then promptly come back to Dharwad or go to Bombay for concerts. So it was very sort of broken talim that he received from Bhurji Khan. I just wanted to put these three photographs on the screen for you to see. For me, they are like the three parts of his life, really. Mansur, the performer on the stage, you know, forever with microphones in front of him. And he was a very, he was a performer who did not even wait for his introductions to get over at concerts. He would, you know, just start singing, you know, many times, even before the curtains went up, he would start singing, and he would be revealed to the audiences singing, you know. So when he sat on stage, he was just sort of, he metamorphosed, and for him it was just, you know, like, I have to give my best, and I have to sing as much as I can and make my, you know, I mean, do justice to the talim that I have received from my gurus. The second photo at the bottom is Mansur collecting bil patris in his home compound in Shri Mrityunjay in Dharwad. So that's Mansur the Lingayat. You know, Mansur was very, very staunch Lingayat. And like I mentioned earlier, his gurus, Shri Mrityunjay Swami, and then later Mahant Swami, and so many other gurus that he had in this tradition, took precedence over anything and everything. So, I mean, he used to perform at mutts across Karnataka throughout the year. And if he would get a big concert which would pay him, say, 1 lakh, he would still give that up because he was always giving priority to going and singing at the mutt. So he, it was part of his daily practice. And even his family members say to me that it was only after a couple of hours in the morning that we sort of would be allowed to meet him, because he would be collecting the bilpatris, doing the puja, and singing along while doing the puja. And that was like the start of his day. And I'm told that even when he traveled to places like Delhi and other places, he would carry photographs of his gurus, he would carry his puja samagri, and wherever he stayed, it was assumed that he would be offering pujas in the morning, so the host would have to make the necessary arrangements. So, which is also why that he always preferred to stay with friends. He's not someone who enjoyed staying at hotels and guest houses. In practically every city that he performed in, whether in Pune, whether in Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, Bhopal, he always had close friends with whom he stayed, with whom he preferred to stay. And thank God for that, because I got a lot of interesting stories and narratives from a lot of those host families as to, you know, about his eating habits and about his daily schedules and things like that. So that's the second part of him, Mansur the Lingayat. And the third part is Mansur the father, Mansur the family man. That's his daughter Akka Mahadevi, you know, who's talking to him, and it's a very light moment. And when I talked to Akka Ma, she said that this is how we used to, you know, be with him. He would always be playful, he would always be smiling and laughing. For those who remember seeing him and meeting him would remember his absolutely infectious laughter. And he would laugh at the end of every raga that he would sing. You know, it was like the joy pervaded through, and he was just so delighted to sing that he would always laugh. And that would be, if you, you know, I mean, I've now over the last 2 years, I've collected more than 100 new archival recordings of his, which I've put across on my YouTube channel. And practically at the end of every recital, the ending is with this infectious laughter. So that's how you know that the concert has ended, and he has enjoyed it. You know, he has enjoyed singing that. So these are, like, for me, like 3 major parts of him, which I'm trying to sort of interweave as I write on him. Just a little bit of a timeline before I come to the music. So, like I mentioned, he learned for 6 years from Neelakanthabua till the age of 18, when his voice sort of broke, and he came back to Dharwad, and he underwent a long period of a lot of uncertainty, because he did not know what is happening with his voice. His voice was transforming, and no one had sort of told him that this is going to happen, and it was so difficult for him to shift to another voice and then come back to the riyaz. So it was a few years of a lot of uncertainties, but in 1933 he released the first recording featuring Gaud Malhar and Adana. This was the recording which was played to Manjhi Khan, and Manjhi Khan agreed to teach him. But like I said, it was only for 1.5 years or so that he learned from Manjhi Khan Sahab, from 1935 to 1937, when Manjhi Khan Sahab died after an accident. And then after that, another couple of years of a lot of uncertainty, and then he starts receiving talim from Ustad Shamsuddin Bhurji Khan. And like I said, it was very intermittent. It was not continuous. It really sort of came to maybe 2 to 3 years. So if we are to look at the amount of talim that Mansur received, it was 6 years with Neelakanthabua, 1.5 years with Manjhi Khan, and about 3 years with Bhurji Khan. So it's just about 10.5 years. So if you look at his repertoire and you see what he has done, I don't know of any musician who's made the most of 10 years of talim the way Mansur did. He had a repertoire of more than 100 ragas, which he sang in concert regularly. These were not just compositions in his Bandish books. He would circulate and he would sing all of them, and he was sort of, conversant with the grammar of each of them, adept at singing each of them with a lot of confidence. So that's a huge repertoire, because if we are to look at his contemporaries, so for instance, if we look at his contemporaries from his own region, Bhimsen Joshi, who was younger to him, Gangubai Hangal, who was more or less his age, their repertoires, if you look at the performing careers that they had, would barely sort of touch 45 to 50 ragas that they constantly and sang throughout their careers. So Mansur was easily double of his contemporaries in terms of repertoire, but because his gāyakī was so, he was a musician's musician really, and it was so difficult for the lay rasikas to warm up to him, because it was a very, very cerebral gāyakī. It was very complex, very intricate, and so there are generations of listeners who constantly discovered and rediscovered him. Because of the nature of his gāyakī, and he never really compromised that, okay, let me sing a few sort of easily known pieces so that people will come more for my concerts. He would begin his concerts with a Sampurn Malkons, and he would like, no, I'm going to sing. So he would not cow down that, okay, my contemporaries are all singing Yaman, so but he will begin with Savani, and everyone would be wondering what this raga is. And in fact, that also led to a lot of confusion in the minds of the people who were writing about music, the music critics, because they were hardly ever able to recognize the ragas that he's singing, and he hardly ever announced. He just came out singing, and one piece ended, and the end of the piece with the laughter will transition into the next piece. And it was only when he was asked that he would announce the name of the rag. But and for him, the ragas were like songs, and this is what he sort of, when he taught, he was also a very reluctant guru. This is what it comes across, because he was so focused on his own singing. And it sort of reminds me of Nikhil Banerjee, the great sitar player, who was also a very reluctant guru. And in fact, I know of people who went to ask him to learn from him, and he said that, the 1 hour that I give to you is 1 hour I can spend with my instrument. Why am I going to waste my time with you? And he was pretty blunt about that. And he was, no amount of approach from family or friends would sort of budge him on that. And Mansur always also, he had a few students. A lot of his students end up sounding like him, because his style of teaching was the way he had learned, which was, I'm singing, now sing along with me. And it was so difficult for people to sing along, because these are, I mean, like for instance, I'm going to play a rag khat. It's a mixture of 6 ragas. So you can't just sing along, and he's not going to tell you about grammar. He never talked about grammar. And he said, just sing the bandish over and over, and the rag will reveal itself to you. So this is, although it sounds very magical, but it was so difficult for people to learn from him. And his own son, Rajshekhar, said to me that whatever I learned is what I learned accompanying Appa, on stage. And my talim really happened on the stage. I sang with him for 30 years, and that was my talim. We hardly ever sat down and he's singing and I'm singing, and the regular way of talim which we imagine in the Guru Shishya Parampara. So he was a very reluctant guru in that sense. Okay, let me come back to this. For a decade, he worked as a music advisor for Akashvani. And Mansur's thing is that Mansur, whatever role he took on, he took it very, very seriously. So practically disappeared from the music scene, the concert scene, while he was working at All India Radio. We have very few mehfil recordings of his. He sang on the radio constantly in this decade. Other than that, he sort of sang consistently through his career on the radio. But he sort of disappeared from the music scene, and people in close by Bombay were wondering whether, is Mansur still singing? Is he still active? Or what has happened? Some people even thought that he's died. And it's only in 1970, I'm going to play that recording, that he sort of makes a raring comeback to the concert stage after giving up his job at Akashvani, because finally dawns upon him that, hey, I'm hardly singing, and I got into music primarily to sing, not to push files and approve other artists for gradations. And like Ashokji mentioned, it's only from his 60th year that he starts to receive these recognitions. In 1970, the Padma Shri, 76, the Padma Bhushan, and 81, the Kalidas Samman, which Ashokji had a lot to do with. And then in 1992, the year of his demise, is when he received the Padma Vibhushan. So after that, let me now come to what I'm going to do here. So like I mentioned, the recorded classical corpus of Mansur is over 100 ragas. But some recordings sort of stand out from their historical, aesthetic perspectives. So what I've tried to do, I've selected a total of 10 pieces, 5 morning ragas and 5 evening ragas. I'm sorry I've not selected any vachanas, which he used to sing with a lot of aplomb, because it was just so difficult for me to choose just 10 ragas out of 100 odd that we have in our collections. I've given preference to his live concert recordings, because that's where he sort of really flowered. And when he was singing at friends' houses is when he was in the best of forms, really. And I've selected recordings from the time span 1970 to 1992, which corresponds to his age group of 60 to 82. As I said, he sang all the way till the end. He sang 25 days before his death, when he was already suffering from advanced lung cancer. And I'm going to play a recording when he had been diagnosed, and it's practically impossible for anyone to tell that this is a man whose lungs are totally shot. This is a man who's smoked bidi all through his life. In fact, smoked on his deathbed as well. That was one of his sort of requests to his son, and we have that very evocative photograph by Raghu Rai, when Mansur is lying on the bed and Rajshekhar is sort of making him smoke. And he did not know that he was suffering from cancer, and it was good that he did not know, because he sang all the way till the end, and he only complained of having some from some back pain, but he did not know that the back pain is stemming from the fact that his lungs are totally gone. And for the recordings that I've selected, I've tried to source as much contextual information and metadata, because then that sort of helps us understand the value or the significance of these recordings, why that one has selected. Okay, now with that, let me begin. So the five morning ragas that I'm beginning with, the first one is a raga which he was very closely associated with throughout his life, Shivmat Bhairav. And this is a composition which is a unique composition. It has terminologies in Braj Bhasha, Farsi and Sanskrit, all. And Pratham Allahu Akbar, Tu Man Mere, Duje Rasool Chit Dhare, Be Gun, Be Chun, Be Shubha, Be Namuna. These are the Persian words in this. Par De Posh Data, Pak Jat, Yahi Te Dhyan Dharat. So this is a concert from 1982 when Mansur is 72 years old. And interestingly, he's singing at the Cricket Club of India in Bombay. I don't know how this concert really came into being or who his benefactors were who said that maybe it would be a good idea to host a concert of Mallikarjun Mansur of all people at the Cricket Club of India. But as Ashokji said, he gave due credit to all opportunities that he ever received, and even if it was an empty hall, he did his bit, and he honored his commitment. He's accompanied by his son Rajshekhar and his great tabla accompanist Ustad Nizamuddin Khan, who was really like his journeyman throughout his career, throughout the core part of Mansur's career where he was singing at the peak. And Nizamuddin Khan Sahab was not just a great tabla player, but he was a very close friend and a very dear family sort of friend of the Mansurs. And he was one of the few people who understood the way Mansur likes to be accompanied. And Mansur is known for his tans. And Nizamuddin Khan Sahab was probably the only one, apart from later than Basavraj Bendigiri as well, who was able to follow his tans on the tabla and add so much texture to the performance, which is very easy to overlook because of Mansur's own musicianship, which is so incredible. So I want you to pay attention to the way he elongates the pronunciation of the word Allah in this bandish. He traverses over shrutis, so this is like the spaces between the notes. And many years later, after he performed this, I happened to ask Rajshekhar Mansur to record this raga for me. The harmonium accompanist, when Rajshekhar ji came to that point, sort of took his hands off the harmonium and said that this space is not there in this instrument. I cannot accompany him. I can't do this because it's so hard to get into that space between the notes. I want you to also pay attention to what he says about the place of alap in the gāyakī, because there was a lot of criticism of this gāyakī in its formative years, because all the other gāyakīs, whether of Agra or Kirana, had been much more systematized and formalized. But Atrauli Gāyakī of the Aladiya Khan branch was still under construction, so to say. And it was hard for him to justify the uniqueness of this Gāyakī because there was so much criticism from within the tradition, let alone from music critics and all. So let me play this for you. These are the spaces between the notes.
हमारे घराने में आलाप नहीं, ऐसा कई लोग बोलते, यही आलाप कहते हैं इसको।
Puts a lot of criticism to rest. Nizamuddin Khan following with Khan. So Nizamuddin Khan added so much texture to this rendition, and this is a proof of what real good accompaniment is really about. You know, he sort of knew the gāyakī, and he had spent long hours with Mansur at his house, and that got him a window into his gāyakī so much that he was able to add significant value. This second piece that I'm playing is also a rag which was very dear to him, Bibhas. In fact, let me mention a very interesting story. The sociologist T.N. Madan for a while lived in Dharwad, and they were very good friends with the Mansurs. And it was during this time that Madan Saab had a son, and Madan Saab asked Mansur about suggestion for naming him, and he named him Bibhas. So when I talk to Bibhas, even today, it's like, you know, I was named by Mansur, and so Vibhas is really a rag which was very close to him. Vibhas, as you know, is primarily has a Shuddha Dhaivat, but in this particular rendition, he deploys Komal Dhaivat and again sort of gives us a window into what a master of his caliber can do with the grammar of ragas. And you know, I mean, this is not really. He's singing very much the Shuddha Dhaivat Vibhas, but the way he brings in Komal Dhaivat and then he laughs about it, which sort of is like a take on the fact that he has a few good friends in the audience, so they got what he was trying to do, and he was delighted about that. And one reason why I'm playing some of these rags also is because one of the great criticisms of Mansur and this style really is that they used to sing primarily only Vilambit or Madhyalay, only one bandish and end it. Whereas practically all other gharanas sing two bandishes, Vilambit and Drut. But as you will see during this presentation, Mansur sang a lot of Druts. And in fact, he made it a point to select a rag for the opening of the concert, which would have both compositions. And then subsequently, he would get into the Khasul Khas or the specialized repertoire of the Atrauli style, where he would be singing only one composition. But for all these main ragas like Vibhas or Todi, he would always sing the Drut. So here is the Vibhas. Rajshekhar to repeat it. And laughs about it. Someone who did not do tihais often, but when he did. Okay, I come to Mia Ki Todi, which is again, I mean, this rendition is really a throwback to his Gwalior Talim. And the rags that he learned from Neelakanthabua in the Gwalior tradition, he sang them as Gwalior. The rags that he learned as Atrauli, he sang them as Atrauli. So it sort of also created a lot of problems, music critics or others. I mean, they would say that ye to Gwalior wale hain, and the Gwalior people will say, nahi, nahi, ye to Jaipur Atrauli ke. So he was always in between. He sort of fell between the cracks. But something with which one of his students, the sarod player Bishwajit Roy Chaudhary, told me that Mansur had tremendous fidelity for the talim that he received from his gurus. So the rags that he learned from a particular guru, he sang it like that, and he would make a mention. I'll play a Savani for you where he makes a mention of Manjhi Kha. And this rendition, this is a Ghar Mehfil, and it's absolutely monumental. This, the selection of bandishes, as well as the accompaniment with Nizamuddin Khan Sahab and Abdul Qadir on the sarangi. This is a Mansur who's singing in the Gwalior tradition, so to say. One of the hallmarks of his singing used to be the way he would stand at the tarshan, the higher sa, with this really luminous thing. People who listen to Mansur have to get used to his coughing. That's a prerequisite. He always cough So the entire development of this piece is very much in the Gwalior mold. Now he's increased the love within the villain. He would not do this in the Jaipur Rajas. It's a very rare bandish. I don't know where he got this bandish. Kutubuddin, Kutubalam. Okay, the next one, Bahaduri Todi. This is actually from the year of his passing, and he's already suffering from lung cancer. And he's not got his son or any of his other disciples traveling with him. He went on a complete whirlwind tour in 1992, the year of his passing, and he was largely unaccompanied. He sang solo. 82-year-old man suffering from cancer, but totally in swar and never a note which is off. He's got Shaila Datar accompanying him. She's a vocalist of the, well, more or less the Gwalior Agra tradition from Pune. Balkrishna Iyer from the 1980s onwards became his sort of regular tabla accompanist. This composition to me really sort of signifies Mansur's will to sing, really, because the composition, So Meri Bala Avat, Ghadi Ghadi Palachina Nisadina Mohe Khijavat. So he's talking about his impending death. He's talking about that my time is here, you know, and Aso Dheet Langar Kabhu Na Dekhe, Gari De De Bulavat. And in Bahaduri Todi, he brings out, Mansur was not associated so much with singing the words of the composition very clearly. And that is also one of the things which one has to get used to if one listens to Mansur, that even his disciples tell me that they had to listen to other artists of the gharānā to get the words of the bandish. And they got the gāyakī from Mansur, because Mansur would just, for him, the words were just sort of like, his idea of the bandish or the cheese or the words were the hook on which he has to hang the gāyakī, you know, and the gāyakī took precedence over and above everything else. So it's been a challenge for me to try and reconstruct a lot of the bandishes, because one can't really understand what he's singing. So one has to listen to a lot of artists across gharānā traditions and find the common bandishes and then sort of decode what he's singing. I've been told that the original bandish is not as sublime. It's the bandish is So Mere Bana Avat, which sort of takes it into a Shringar mode, like a playfulness. But Mansur very clearly does not sing Bana. He very clearly sings So Meri Bala Avat. So I've, you know, in keeping with his fidelity with his gurus, I've kept fidelity with his own singing. she was so nervous sitting with him. Okay, the last piece of the morning repertoire that I'm playing is one of his specialities, Khat, which is a mix of 6 ragas. And when you listen to this rendition, even those who learn music or are practitioners themselves, their comment would also be that the rag stands on its own. There is no way that you are, during the rendition, you're trying to figure out where is the Asavri, where is the Kannada, and where is the Suha, and things like that. So that was one of his great achievements, really, that all these Jod ragas or Sankirn ragas, complex ragas, which were mixtures of 2 or more ragas, he sang them as effortlessly as single ragas. And this bandish is really very special, and it really is emblematic of the entire ecosystem of the Guru Shishya Parampara and Hindustani music per se. Vidyadhar guniyan so kaha kariye, kachu gun charcha ki larai lariye. Yeah? Jo kachu janiye, gaiye bajaiye, nahi to guru ke charan dhariye. Yeah, so it's all got to do with practice. What you produce on the stage that day is what you will be known by. Not all these great introductions that, I learned from them and I went and performed there. So Mansur was really one of who really truly believed in that. This is a very special concert in many ways. It's held in Pune at the residence of Shashi Naralkar. And it's one of the unique things in which he's accompanied by Veena Sahasrabuddhe of the Gwalior Gharānā. And actually, there is a video of this entire concert which I've put on my YouTube channel. And you see how closely Veena Tai is listening to him and, sort of trying to catch each and every gesture and each and every note utterance of Mansurji to be able to imbibe just a little bit. And she sings very confidently along with him. And Pune was really, one of his great havens, really. This concert was attended by Pula Deshpande, who was his long-time friend, also Ashokji's long-time friend. Great connoisseur. Harmonium. I have actually posted a recording on my YouTube channel of a concert where he's accompanied by Pula on the harmonium. For the full concert. It's actually a concert from Bhopal. 25th January 1981 or something like that. So he's accompanied by Veena Tai, and Balakrishna Iyer is accompanying him on the tabla. And you have a very young Arvind Thatte who's accompanying him on the harmonium. And Arvindji is looking very fazed by what is happening, because this is very complex stuff which is happening. And for him to follow on the harmonium is becoming increasingly challenging. So here's Khat, which is a mixture of 6 ragas, but dare you to find the constituents. Like a song kind of Okay, now we move to the evening repertoire. And like I said, that for the decade of the 60s, he sort of disappeared and was touring for Akashvani all over and grading artists and trying to get more people to sign on for All India Radio, and hardly performed. And to the point that there were several people in his beloved Mumbai who thought that Mansur is dead. And someone who was putting together the Bal Gandharv Sangeet Sabha in July 1970 happened to suggest, hey, why don't we call Mansur? And the organizers were, is Mansur still around? Is he singing? We haven't heard him in a long time. So this was his comeback concert. And after this, he never stopped singing all the way till the end. And he had tremendous respect for Bal Gandharv. In fact, he is on record saying that all across Maharashtra, it will be Bal Gandharv who will live on. And all across India, it will be Begum Akhtar who will live on. So he had tremendous respect for both these musicians. And the Bal Gandharv Sangeet Sabha, when it sort of materialized for him, he went with his student Panchakshari Swami Mattigatti, who is one of the few good disciples of Mansurji, who sang, he was a blind Jangam. I sang very well. And then he's accompanied by Ghulam Qadir, where he's struggling. He's struggling. This tabla player is really struggling. And it's one of the most terrible accompaniments that way, sadly, for Mansur. But Mansur was really someone who made the most of any situation. He went on with the challenge and sang. And in fact, if he was accompanied by bad accompanists, at the end of the concert, he would always go up and he said, "Aapne bahut acha bajaya." So he had a mean streak, and he did say these things to the people. And I'm sure Ghulam Qadir would have felt very proud ki, you know, I got the praise from Mansur. Little did he know that it's all sarcasm. But this Bhoop is again one of these ragas which is associated with the Atrauli Jaipur repertoire. And in more recent times, we have the iconic rendition by Kishori Tai, which really sort of pushes the boundaries of Bhoop and makes it come alive. But Mansur's take is equally there, and if not more. And again, it's a rag in which he sings both the Vilambit and the Drut, because he must have learned this rag. It's one of the initial rags that he would have learned from Neelakanthabua. Accompaniment is real. It's horrible. Poor thing. One of the most gorgeous memed. For me, this stands above Kishori Tai's Bhoop. But that's just me.
madane sura जब से तुम्हें संग लागली जब से तुम्हें संग
always egging on his accompanist
जब से तुम्हें सनला जब से तुम्हें सनला गले जब से तुम्हें सनला गले बम्मा मोरे जब से तुम्हें सनला लागले जब से तुम्हें सन जब से तुम्हें सन जब से तुम्हें सनला गले तारे बम्मा मोरे जब से तुम्हें सनला
So, like I mentioned, that he had tremendous fidelity towards his gurus, and whenever he sang Savani, which was really one of his Siddhi ragas for me, he always made it a point to mention Manjhi, and he learnt this rag from Manjhi, and this is a very fantastic performance, really. It's at the home of his long-time friend R.H. Bengeri in Bombay, Santa Cruz. Bengeri was from Dharwad and was like a friend, patron, and whenever he came to Bombay, Mansur usually stayed with Bengeri. And so even if he had come for something else, it would be mandatory to have a concert at the Bengeri residence. And it's 1980. He's accompanied by Rajshekharji and again the great Nizamuddin Khan. This bandish is really iconic of the Atrauli Jaipur repertoire. Deva Deva Satsang Shri Rang Bhav Bhang Karan Sharan Sab Shiv Ke Aaye. So, and actually Mansur never sang the Antara. I was able to piece it together from some of the other renditions and also have a discussion with a few other representatives of the Atrauli Jaipur gharānā who gave me the Antara. He makes a mention of Manjhi in the middle, and at the insistence of the audience, he sings an entire avartan like Manjhi used to sing. It's a noisy recital, this one. Lot of bābāi. shows Manjhi Khan's style. Down in this recital, he also says, "Sab Guru ka hai, mera kya hai." So, Manjhi Khan to him was the epitome of music. Next piece that I'm playing is Ramdasi Malhar. This is a little bit of an indulgence from me because this is my favorite rendition of his, and it's what got me hooked on to his gāyakī more than 20 years back when this was released through Music Today. And I literally had a 20-year relationship with this bandish, trying to figure out the words. And it's only recently that when I heard Jitendra Abhisheki ji's rendition of the same rag, that I was able to decode the bandish. Because it was not there in anyone's bandish book, and the way Mansur sings, you hardly understand. Now that I've put it on there, you guys will be like, oh yeah, now it's so easy to make it out. But I pretty much spent a good part of 2 decades trying to decode what he's singing. What is it really? And the other reason why I've chosen this is because he does something in this rendition which was his other speciality, Mukhband Tans. Where he would close his mouth and still be singing the tans, and you would hear each and every note distinctly. I mean, most of the people have hard enough time singing with their mouths open on tune, but Mansur could pretty much sing with his mouth closed and still be in tune. The man sang tunefully for 72 years of his life, really. That's the honest truth. And I don't think there are many people who can stake that kind of a claim. He's accompanied by Rajshekhar. This is a live concert from Bombay. The bandish, which is my great discovery, is Gumbad dekh bhaye nihar sai ke, Didar paye bhaye kaj man ke. Now, when you listen, it's so hard to understand what he's singing. And it's actually a real, it's like a Sufi composition because there's a reference to some shrine, the Gumbad of a shrine. Charan parasat bhayo anand sukh kahiyo na jaat chin chin ke. So look out for the Mukhband Tans and, well, yeah, the unique bandish. Rajshekhar is in great form. Now the Mukband songs are coming up. These are the Mukband. Full Alarma. The penultimate piece that I'm playing is Sampoorn Malkos. For those who heard Mansur, they would remember that he would often sing this. And this particular recital is again from Bombay, Gunidas Sangeet Sammelan. And this rendition is also iconic in the sense that within the first 1.5 minutes, you get the full bandish, you get the entire swaroop of the rag with as much clarity. So it's really like, in that sense, a model performance for students to follow, that within a minute or so, how you can place the entire rag before the audiences. This is a very unique bandish by more or less unknown composer. Baraj rahi vahu, eri hu to dheet langar chhel chikaro. Gyan saras, that's the takhallus or the nom de plume of the composer. Gyan saras hai ऐसो नटखट मोहे जाने न देत हूँ तो नंद दुलारो. last piece that I'm playing for you is Kafi Kannada. Again, one of his khasiyat. And one of the reasons why I've selected this rendition is because it's the only recording in this entire selection from Delhi. He had some very monumental recitals in Delhi, although Bombay and Pune was pretty much his. He's on record saying that Karnataka is my Matrubhumi and Maharashtra is my Karmabhumi. So he held Bombay, Pune very close to his heart, and that's where he had the most connoisseurs and fans and people who understood his gāyakī and gave him that appreciation that he enjoyed, and he flowered into his best version when he was performing in Bombay, Pune. But this is unique also in the sense that this is at the residence of the ambassador of Qatar to India. There was a series of concerts that the ambassador of Qatar to India had organized in the year 1984 and 1985. People who were active in Delhi in those circles tell me that I think his name was Hassan, Ambassador Hassan. He was a great fan of Indian music, and he liked both instrumental as well as vocal music. And he's accompanied by Fayaz Khan, who was his Delhi regular, really. Fayaz Khan Sahab of the Delhi Gharānā usually was with him for all his Delhi concerts. And he has chosen Sabri Khan Sahab for the Sarangi. These again are compositions. This is a rag very much of the Atrauli Jaipur repertoire, but again, it is a rag in which he's singing both the Vilambit as well as the Drut. Although I've been told that the Drut Bandish, Dar Dar Pat Pat Bulai, is actually from another Kannada, but he sort of fitted it into Kafi Kannada, something which he did a lot because he was always short of compositions. So when he got a compositions, he made the most of it. He'd sort of fit it into some of the other ragas as well. So Lairi Madapiya, Bhar Bhar Madamati Kalayya, and then the Dar Dar Pat Pat. What he says towards the end of this recital, along with his laughter, is also why I've chosen this as the last piece.
Bara bara
No vocal accompaniment.
manuva dar dar baat baat bulai dar dar baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat jai baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat baat bulai baat baat bulai manuva dar dar baat baat bulai manuva 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 dar 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 baat bulaaye manuva dar dar baat 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 baat bulaaye 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 manuva 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 dar dar baat baat bulaaye baat baat bulaaye baat baat bulaaye
Phlegmatic laughter.
थोड़ा रेस्ट लेंगे थोड़ा थोड़ा तो उम्र हो गया बहुत नहीं जवानी क्या है 74 है
थोड़ा उम्र हो गया अभी रेस्ट लेंगे जवानी नहीं है 74 आया है ओके थैंक यू सो मच
This was a wonderful journey through a great master, and whenever I listened to Mallikarjun Mansur right from the beginning, I thought this is a voice from the ancient times. It is a timeless voice. History cannot possibly leave even a small imprint on it. This is the voice of eternity, which speaks to us across time. And I am reminded, I must give an episode. The President of India, R. Venkatraman, was coming to Bhopal, and for anybody those days coming to Bhopal meant a visit to Bharat Bhavan. Incidentally, we had a program called Artist in Residence, and Mallikarjun Mansur was the first artist in residence there some years ago. We had a very stupid chief minister, may he rest in his heaven of stupidity, Motilal Vora. Now he called me and he said, the president is coming, so we must organize a Carnatic music conference. I said, sir, he's coming to Bhopal. Why should we organize a Carnatic music conference? We should have a Hindustani music conference. He said, भाई आपसे क्या बहस करना, आप secretary से बात कर लो. So I talked to secretary Murari, who was a nice fellow, and he said, no, you decide. I told him that I want to call the president of Indian music for the concert. He was a little perplexed. He said, president of Indian? I said, yes, Mallikarjun Mansur is the president of Indian classical music, and I'll request him to come and perform. Fine. Now Pandit ji had committed himself to some concert in Patna. So I told him, Pandit ji, I have committed and he is coming, so you have to come. Well, anyway, he came. We were told that he will have 45 minutes. Now Mallikarjun Mansur was a stickler for time. So I told him, Pandit ji, 45 minute गाइएगा, फिर president का लवाजमा उठ के चला जाएगा, फिर हम लोग आराम से, हाँ ठीक है. अच्छा उन दिनों ये कंप्यूटर तो होते नहीं थे. He was a human computer in terms of these things. अब पूरा बैठे हुए हैं, president and the governor and the chief minister and the ADCs and all those guys are sitting. At sharp 45 minutes, before that, the ADC came, sir, wo 40, yes, I have told Mansur ji, he will finish at 45, don't bother. Exactly at 45, he finished. But nobody would move. So all of a sudden, I was called. And Mr. Venkatraman asked me, Mr. Vajpeyi, won't you sing any more? Because, sir, you have a state banquet to attend. He said, I have banquets every day, but I don't have a Mallikarjun Mansur every day. So please ask him to sing more. Now, what had happened was that the mic was on. The boys had forgotten. And there were too many lights, so Mallikarjun Mansur could not see what was happening. When I went up to him and said, Pandit ji, thoda aur gaiye, so he said, gaye. The whole hall, including our Venkatraman, burst into laughter. Anyway, we have run out of time really, but if there are a couple of questions, he will be happy.
Sure.
Yeah, please, go ahead. Mike, yeah.
Thank you. I heard, since we're talking about his personal life, I don't know where I heard that, maybe in the radio, that I think at some point he was estranged from his son.
Yes.
And then he said, I'll never see you, and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And when the son heard him on the radio, he wanted to see him.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to see him because I've taken a vow. Then some priest said, I'll do penance for you. Something like that I'd heard at that time.
He had a difficult relationship with his son.
He used to scold him on this
On the stage.
mic.
Very
I
often.
once
yeah.
told him, Pandit ji, आप अपने बेटे को, जो आपका शिष्य भी है, स्टेज पे डांटते, अरे क्या वो नहीं करता, रियाज नहीं करता. तो हमने कहा, पढ़ाता है अंग्रेजी. तो मैंने कहा, तो आप ही ने तो उसको अंग्रेजी पढ़ाने के लिए कहा होगा. तो डांटते थे वो. मतलब he had a very strange kind of a relationship.
So, Rajshekhar ji always referred to Mansur ji as guru much more than father. They had a difficult relationship. Was also got to do with Rajshekhar ji's choice for marriage, and a lot of things went into it. But Rajshekhar finally, of course, reconciled and came back to Mansur ji and started singing with him again. And he held him very close to his heart, even though he said to me that as a father he was a very difficult man. He had much more love for his daughters, all 7 of them, who were always around, and very often they also sort of conspired to keep him away. Also because one of his daughters, Nita, who's this year received the Rajyotsav award, wanted to learn from Mansur ji, but Mansur ji that way was a staunch traditionalist. His thing was, if I teach my daughter, she will go to another family. So he never taught. She picked up whatever she did, on the sidelines, and it was hard. So in fact, when I asked her for an interview, she said to me, "Ki mujhe chhod dijiye. What do I say about him? I wish he had taught me." So it became a sore spot. He had difficult relationships with his. He was always lost in music. In fact, Pula Deshpande wrote a piece about him, which was titled in Marathi, which translates to "A Man Lost in Music." He was always lost in music, and he hardly had time. So even when he writes about his family in his autobiography, he's like, somehow the daughters got married, somehow they found grooms, somehow this happened, somehow that happened. Almost as if he was on the sidelines, and it was really his wife who was running the show and trying to manage the various relationships with the sons-in-laws and son and daughters and all of that.
I am reminding of another episode. One of his daughters, I think, had applied for divorce. And Mansur ji had a concert in Bharat Bhavan. I went to receive him at the airport. And after lodging him in the hotel room, I was about to leave. He said, "Aapko jaldi hai kya?" I'm telling him, "Kala baithi." And then he started narrating this, how for a traditional man to have a daughter file a divorce expectation was too much, and he started weeping and all that. And this lasted for about 2 hours. And it was already getting to be 6. The concert was at 6:30. So I told Pandit ji, अब आप तैयार हो जाइए, मैं रश्मि को लेके आता हूँ, आपको ले चलूँगा. And I had this strange fear in my mind that Pandit ji is so disturbed, whatever is going to happen to the concert. So I forgot to tell my wife that Pandit ji has been in this state. And my wife came and said, Pandit ji, वो आप पिछली बार आप वो साग बता रहे थे, तो आपने लच्छा साग बताया था. हाँ बोले बेटा वो प्रेम साग. And he started singing. By the time we went to the concert, he was telling my wife in the car the various kinds of saag, lachha saag and prem saag and whatever. And when he started singing, there was not a trace of his personal suffering in it. He was a perfectly professional musician singing with no. So then I realized that perhaps our classicism gives you that capacity in which individual suffering need not be poured. It stands by itself. I mean, it was amazing to see that man singing for 2.5 hours, whereas he has been weeping for more than 1.5 hours before that. He was a true. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.